Yeah, welcome to my talk, Conscious Character Design, and big thanks to Grads and Games for having me again, and this like shiny new festival. My name is Kyriakidou. People can call me Lucy, and I'm here to talk to you about character design and discuss my process and my way of thinking. There you go. The usual about me section. I'm a freelance 2D games artist specializing in character design, and I'm currently an art director on an unannounced project. I had to make sure to put to share my second screen so I don't break any NDAs, but messages popping up. I'm also very involved with initiatives to promote diversity in the industry. I like my role as a Women Making Games Northeast admin, which is a local community in the Northeast where I'm based. And I'm also a STEM ambassador. Oh, and earlier this year, I won the Art and Animation Game Dev Heroes Award, which I keep here. I don't know if you can see, which I'm super proud of. The latest project I was involved in that is out was Battletoads. I joined a bit further in the process, and I went from character designer to lead character designer. It was a really fun experience and such a stupid game. I love it. And working with Delilah was a delight. I made a note, I thought about that last night. I made a note to say that. That's all my screen says. So like I said, I'm now working as an art director. I thought it would be good to kind of tell you how one may get here. Because, my way into the industry was very straightforward, but it was not a very smooth one. And I know everybody has their own story about how they got into game dev. Like Mark was saying earlier, that was what a career. So I was studying animation at uni when I discovered the world of game development, and immediately I was like, that's what I want to do. I always, games have always been a huge part of my life, and it never occurred to me that, I can work in games and create games and these experiences for others. So yeah, when I found out, I kind of pivoted my whole, what I wanted to do. And here I am now. I went self-employed 2 weeks after finishing uni, which was a terribly risky idea. And the first few years were hard financially and mentally. But I stuck with it, and yeah, like I said, here I am. Throughout a decade of working, I have been lucky enough to try on a few 2D art roles. Character animator, I did a trailer for Fall in London. I've done some Steam key art for games like PC Building Simulator. I work with friends at Coatsing, and I did some character portraits on Augmented Empire, and just so many things. Yeah, I've been super lucky. I got into being into freelance because I wanted this variety, and I definitely got it. But my passion has always been character design. In the last few years, I have focused on that. I both got lucky and I worked hard to be able to pick and choose my project. So now I do character design. So in the last few years, I've gone from a 2D generalist to character designer, lead character designer, and now art director. It is a fantastic experience, and it is really nice to be a noob at something. But enough about me. Let's talk character design. That's what I'm sure you were here for. This is all going to be my personal take and process developed through the experience I just talked about. Lots of trial and error and studying the subject. And to me, there are three main pillars to character design, which is narrative, human factor, and art skills. They're pretty self-explanatory, but I've learned working as an art director that you should never assume knowledge. So narrative, the brief, the story. As a character designer, you usually don't have control over the brief. Sorry, people who just draw things because you just feel they're really cool. Group projects and game jams, unfortunately, do not prepare you for, that control being taken away from you as a character designer. Human factor is the designer's interpretation of that brief. Our role is to create pretty pictures and, things people will like looking at. And our frame of reference on what is aesthetically pleasing is our own, because art is subjective. So it's a big factor to consider. Art skills, how well you can draw what you want to draw. Take what's in your head and put it on paper. A lot of artists, character designers especially, work on this, like on improving this, but hopefully throughout what I talk about today, you will find ways to improve the others as well, or like broaden the other ones, your skills of the other ones. So now let me tell you about how these are applied and how I tackle designs from the start. I want to say finish, but that is like a bit of a question mark, depending on the project, which I'll talk about later. So yeah, we talked about being given a brief, and you don't have the freedom that you may expect. But being a character designer is about interpreting and developing that brief and the story in a visual and a creative way. So I always start with research and create mood boards for the more important characters. This way I learn about the subject and I also gather ideas and inspiration. I have Pinterest boards with like fashion and all that stuff. So that's a quick and easy way to kind of get inspiration. But then I look when I know the subject, like in more specific areas, target it, I guess. So yeah, this is the time to kind of come across unexpected details that you may have otherwise, you may have not thought about. And like I always say, unless you're designing yourself, you can realistically not know what your character knows, how they live and what they like. So, delve into those areas and allow yourself to be surprised. Oh, spoilers. I'll move my keyboard. Allow yourself to kind of be surprised and learn. Research also helps ground your design to reality based on facts and make deliberate, thought-through, conscious decisions. This isn't only for believability, but also to counter the personal bias of the designer. All this doesn't obviously only apply to designs that need to be realistic, but it could be for the most outlandish characters, alien, whatever, robots. We need to have recognizable elements in order to succeed in conveying the message that we want to convey. On the project, like a good example is on the project I'm working on now, I had to design a character that gives off a very uneasy feeling. And I was really stuck, like nothing was working. So I asked the team what they found creepy, and they came back with some very unsettling things. But it was great because then I could like target like on what exactly it was that made something unsettling. That's something like a Google search like will not tell you. It like completely changed my perspective. So yeah, it is great to see the highlights of that research in your portfolios. Some of you may have seen, fabric or like pattern references on the sides of designs. It shows that you have done the work, and it helps the person understand your design choices and use something recognizable to them. So better understand your design. Can people in the chat, I know I said I wouldn't check, but can people in the chat make sure, like tell me that you can hear me okay? Because I'm getting paranoid now. Yes, thank you. You're quick. Awesome. So when I start drawing after doing all that research, I always keep it very rough. This is a stage to kind of come up with lots of ideas and have fun, and explore all the things. You know, it's the part of the project with the most creative freedom, and I love that. At this stage, I kind of focus on the broad strokes of the design, because you start with like a brief and you need to put it in a blank page. So you need to decide what direction we want to take it in. Things like shape language, you know, proportion, clarity of silhouette, things like that. Those are the broad strokes. So as long as I roughly stay within the boundaries of the brief and my own research, you know, in some way, I just let my creativity flow. What am I doing? Yeah, this is it. This is a good example. The last thing that you want is for your designs to be a variation of the same, especially on this stage of the project. You need to avoid recycling ideas, and you make sure to keep your designs diverse, because trying to add diversity later on, it feels forced, and it shows. You kind of add in diversity to add it, rather than creating a three-dimensional being. So go back to those storytelling points and think of interesting ways to interpret the brief that are outside your comfort zone. This goes back to the human factor that I talked about, and it means changing the way that you do your personal work, and your interpretation of the brief. I've made sure to put in the work and kind of consciously change my own biases that were seeping into my work, like always drawing like the thing that I liked drawing. And I think as artists, we owe it to the medium to broaden our idea of beauty and what is aesthetically pleasing, or we keep regurgitating the same ideas and perpetuating stereotypes and beauty standards. And personally, it has been something that has drastically changed my skill level, but also my relationship with myself and others. Some ways to do that is to reference real life. Going back to research, we kind of need to stop making assumptions on what someone looks like. Earlier, like on the research slide, there was a picture of like full of strong people and they looked so different. So when you're trying, for example, to figure out what your character's body shape should be, think of facts that have affected the body and always refer back to real life reference and people. And like I said earlier, obviously make sure your designs are diverse to begin with, because a lot of us end up developing like a default, and then all the designs are just a variation from that. And you know, you just stop drawing the same thing again and again, even in your personal work, and just challenge yourself. Some ways to do that is to kind of redesign existing characters. I find it fun because I get to study characters that I like in games or, I don't know, TV. And it kind of forces you to think about the different factors that affected and shaped a character, because they're already, like, there's a story there and you do it in a more conscious way. And really just like try to surround yourself with more diverse images. You know, like take inspiration from the people around you, the people that you like, and let those people and experiences kind of create a positive bias. And, you know, like by linking traits to those people that have them that you like, or people you don't like. I don't know your life. Yeah, obviously, lastly, review your work to find any patterns that may limit your design skill. Every character design portfolio should have thumbnails, or is a character illustration portfolio. That's a big pet peeve of mine. Character design about storytelling, and it is a process, not an image. So this is what you should be trying to showcase. I do a lot of like portfolio reviews, and some students tell me that they don't have any thumbnails to include. They just draw a cool character, which is well and good, but it is something that you will struggle with getting a character design job specifically, and if you do get one, adjusting to having one. It is something that I see with a lot of young artists, so if you do that, don't worry about it, like you can change it. That's what we're here for, right, to learn. But kind of to give you a good understanding as well is like on why you should be shown that, not just the process and the way of thinking, but game dev is a really fast-paced world. We go from like deadline to deadline. So, and like in character design, we're like the first line, like in a long line of production. So if it takes you 2 days to show me a pretty picture of one character, it could be like in one in a million chance that that's the character we need, but chances are it won't be, and you wasted 2 days when we could have had, you know, like 20, 30 designs, like very rough, and then taking them when we want to start honing in. So it was very unlikely that you'll be the decision maker. So you need to make sure you provide options and show that you're a team player in your portfolio. So this is basically what the next stage is. Yeah, sketches and details. It is a lot of back and forth and tweaking and adjusting little details and bigger details and bringing character into the piece. The ones I'm showing now, the image I'm showing, is like, this stage is nowhere near as polished as these. But I thought it was like a good example of how many iterations you may end up with, like even for the smallest things, like this little like ear things or whatever. But yeah, it is about taking the initial sketch that worked, figuring out how you can adjust it or enhance it, or, you know, figuring out what, like, take what worked and just create a better design based on those. At this point, if you haven't already, you need to consider things like the angle your character is seen at in the game, like from the back if it's like a third-person game, and make sure to keep any interesting, keep the interest there and any important detail, like any vital information for the game. Or something like the screen size is important as well. If your character is very small on the screen, you may need to blow up some features or like change proportions a little bit, which I feel like it's something that we do in general in game dev, but it's not something we tell young artists. So I think it's good to hear about. I remember in Battletoads, like a lot of characters' eyes we ended up making bigger in order for them to show on the screen because they look small. So yeah, that's an insider tip for you. Yeah, but yeah, this is where you can really start telling stories. And visual storytelling is the most important. Like, this is what character designers do. You know, telling the player a story without having to write it out for them, and giving them the right feeling they should get from, like, you know, when they react to a character, without even having to interact with them. Here are my tips and like things that I think about during this stage of the process. Some first things to take into consideration is obviously what your character is. You know, like, is it cold? So do they have to wear a coat? Are they like an animal that's like underground and can even see? Because like I know a lot of underground animals can't see, like with their eyes. You know, things like that. Personality, of course. You know, think about how you express your personality. You know, like hair, clothes, tattoos, socks. I don't know. But yeah, like, and also like, you know, what is in, that's something like I always think about, what is in my character's pockets, or if they had pockets, what would be in them. Think about their lifestyle. I draw a lot. I draw for work and I draw in my spare time and I play games, so I have to wear a wrist brace. That says a lot about who I am, about both my personality and my routine. Or all my coat pockets have like boot bags because I have a dog. So, you know, like you can tell a lot about a person's life just by looking at them. Also look into their past. And when I say past, I don't necessarily mean back in the day, which you need to consider, but it also means like how their day is going, you know? Like, do they have black circles because they had to wake up early and call the plumber? Whatever. Like things like that. Just think about your character and their life and their past. And also their goals. Like, what do they want to achieve? What is the big life aspiration? But also what they want to achieve in the next 10 minutes. I guess, like, you know, maybe they're carrying change because they want to buy a coffee, things like that. These are things that the brief won't necessarily tell you. It usually doesn't, but it's your job to consider or like develop. And this is why research is important, of course. Some extra things that I like to add or like see if I can add is a bit of foreshadowing, like some elements of foreshadowing in my characters. So when players have finished the game and they go back and look and they're like, they have like this oh my god moment. I think it's a nice Easter egg. Doesn't always work, but cleanup is the next phase. It's pretty self-explanatory, which I said I wouldn't say. It depends on the project what that is. Actually, it's not very self-explanatory. Think about it, because like every project is different. The requirements. It could be turnarounds. It could be just colors on the sketch, or it could be, you know, like several views of all the different layers your character is wearing. Maybe like zoomed in different areas of details. So it could be that's something that changes per project. It is by far my least favorite part of character design because there are rules and, you know, you need to be very precise in order to make the next person's job easier. It's either going to be, you know, like a 3D artist that takes what you're creating, so you need to make sure those angles are correct. Like the one hand can't be like this big and the other one this big, like in different views. Or it could be an animator that takes that, like a 2D animator. So, you know, you need to take that into account. Personal tip, that's like I said, this is my take on this process, so that's what I'm giving you. Yeah, thanks to my animation degree, what I love to do is create images of my characters in motion. It is an example of how your characters will move and interact with, you know, the surroundings and other people, other characters. That way, you both convey personality, which shows great in your portfolio that you thought about it, but also in a game dev situation, like in an actual development situation, it makes sure that your vision is carried through. So like I was saying, your character design maybe an animator takes, so they know how you visualizing your character will be walking or smiling. So yeah, that's my process. Also, that's my dog Nugget. Since I got him, I'm including him in every talk of mine. So yeah, do your research. It is really important stage. Do not skip this part. Always start rough and like slowly hone in on the design. This whole process is kind of, and I'm not a scientist, but like I imagine from what I know of like stars, it's like, and like creation of stars, it's like at first there's nothing and then it needs to explode and you need to create this like plethora of thumbnails and like up to the point where it needs to start imploding in order to create something solid. So thank you so much. I will leave you with this and I'll answer questions. So yeah, please, like, if you take anything from this, it's like, try to work on your skills as a character designer and expand your visual library as a person. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you very much, Lucy. That was good. We could all hear you fine, don't worry.
Great.
We got we've got a lot of questions to run through. So let's dive straight in and try and run through a few of them.
Let's do this.
So Hannah's asked, what are your tips for going freelance straight after uni? This is what I'm going to do.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's really hard. But some things that you can do is make sure to give yourself enough time for networking. Humans are the biggest resource, especially in the UK as an industry, because it's a small industry. So that's how I get all my projects, like through people I worked with before, or people who have seen my stuff on like Twitter, because we follow each other. So yeah, make sure like network is the most important thing if you want to go freelance.
Good answer. Renato has asked, if it works, how close do you work with designers, typically during research, but also during the other parts of development?
Yeah, I work pretty closely. It depends on the project, but working closely with designers definitely helps, because then you need to make sure, like, there are things you need to know, like what your character is going to do in the world, and these are things that you need to know, like, do they need to jump, and how high do they jump? So you don't give them any restrictions, and any restrictions you have, you kind of tackle them early on, and you find creative ways to visually, smooth it out. So yeah, closer than I would like
to. So Logan's asked, this is quite a broad question, so deal with it. I wish. Do you have any portfolio advice for artists who want to specialize in character design?
Yeah, I mean that's what my whole talk was about. Yeah, I would say, just like I said, it is when you sell yourself as a character designer, you're selling yourself on the process of creating characters rather than the character you create, because that's very project specific. So make sure you show the process from research to thumbnails to slowly thinking about the details of your characters. Every design you have should be a breakdown of this process.
Would you say that's probably one of the common pitfalls that many kind of juniors, students, graduates make is just focusing on the finished piece? Yeah,
exactly. Like I see most of the portfolios I see are like pictures of characters, and that tells me nothing about their skills as a person who's meant to be developing. So yeah, please show the thumbnails are my favorite thing to see, and I judge a lot based on the thumbnails. Like when I look at characters now, artists now. Portfolios. Yeah.
Perfect. Ivor's asked, so how long did it take you to get from where you started to where you are now? I know it's important to have a career plan, but I don't know. I think it's me. I don't know what to realistically want or expect. Any kind of insight, with regards to timeframes. How long after finishing uni does it take to become an art director? How difficult is it?
Yeah, so this is probably terrible advice, but I've never had a plan. I was like, I just want to make money from, I want people to pay me to draw pretty pictures. I have been in the industry for 10.5 years now, so it can take time. But everybody's journey is so different. Yeah, it is very different. Just obviously there is a process you need to go through. You can't become an art director or whatever. It's being an art director, especially, it's a lot more about your experience in creating art for games rather than your skills as an artist. So you really need to build that up.
There's a lot of people who will never want to be an art director, who that's not the role for them, because you do end up doing a different role, don't you? You're not just drawing all day.
It's hard. Yeah. Character design is now maybe 2 days of my month. If you put it all together.
Yeah, and how much time do you now spend on meetings and stuff like that?
Yeah, meetings and feedback. That's all I do now.
Yeah, exactly. So this is an interesting one. Apologies, I'm definitely going to pronounce your name wrong. Gurgley, Jersley, I apologise. When it comes to visual storytelling, how do you design a character that clearly communicates the story of the character without falling into the stereotype category?
Yeah, that's good. I think to begin with, what you need to do is to actively, like, you're like, oh, what's the first thing I think about? And then don't do that. And that's why look at, like, do your research, look at real people, because, like, real people don't look the same. You know, like when you think of, I don't know, doctor, there's so many versions of a doctor. Because of stereotypes, we have our own personal idea of what a doctor looks like. So that's why I said, like, you need to do your research to kind of bypass your personal bias. So I think that's the first step, like doing your research and try to find interesting ways to express. It's like, keep asking yourself, what if? Like, you know, what if they were not this? What if they were this?
Certainly. So Grace has asked, I've struggled with having my own style for years, despite my art degree. Would that help me in the industry to work on other people's briefs and expectations for a character?
So a lot of people talk about this, and I'm sure I was thinking about that at the beginning, like as the start of my career, but like developing my own style. But don't worry about it. Like, just draw something good. It doesn't matter what style it's in. It will come naturally. You'll develop it naturally. And for me, being versatile in terms of style has been a big plus, especially when you're a freelancer, because you can adjust your needs to the needs of the project. Your skills to the needs of the project. So yeah, don't worry about it. Just draw cool stuff. I was going to say that word. Just draw cool stuff.
Yeah, I think that goes for pretty much any kind of job in the games industry. Isn't it? Having versatility is always going to be a good thing. You'll have more options for work, exactly. Whether that be freelance, permanent, whatever. So MJ's asked, how many thumbnails do you do on average before moving on to refinement and cleanup?
Oh, that depends on the characters. The more important the character, the more thumbnails. I've hit like 60, I think, in the project I'm on, like for the really important characters. But then some of the like playable characters I managed to do in like 20. So it varies. Like sometimes it takes longer to find the one.
Yeah.
So you could end up with hundreds, but like then you should reevaluate what you're doing if you end up with that many.
Yeah. So Megan's asked, love your talk, really helpful. I was wondering what your preferred mediums and platforms are for character design.
Oh, I mean, I use Photoshop, just because it's like an industry standard. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because usually character design is what we create doesn't end up in the game like as what we created. Somebody takes it and makes something move, or like illustrates it. So it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Time for a couple more. So Joseph's asked, currently an A-level student, hoping to become a game concept artist. What courses did you take at uni? And do you have any advice for steps into becoming a designer?
What was the first? What did I take?
Sorry?
Can you say that again? I didn't hear it.
Oh, sorry. So currently an A-level student, hoping to become a game concept artist. What courses did you take during university? And do you have any advice for steps in becoming a designer?
So I did animation at uni. So I did a lot of animation stuff and life drawing, which I think both helped me develop a dynamic drawing style, because I did like drawing in my spare time, because I did a lot of like 2D animation as well. So I mean, as long as you're doing life drawing, I would say that's like the base of like being a good artist and learning. And everybody has their own path into the industry. But yeah, that's what I did. In terms of being good at designing, yeah, I would say again, like just like take inspiration from lots of different areas. Like for character design, I'll look at fashion, I'll look at makeup, you know, like footwear, like, you know, like it's, think about what you may be designing, just like find that the other areas are not games or like animation, and just learn, like just learn human world things.
Couple more, two more to go through. So this is quite similar to the last one, but I can. This is from sorry, I'm terrible at names. I'm sure you're all realizing this now. Kaloyan. When you were in university, did you know that this would be your area of expertise, or did you just pick it eventually?
I wanted it to be, but I think a lot of people wanted to be character designers. I don't want to say I got lucky because I worked really hard. I think other people maybe settled or found something that they liked more. You know, that happens. And I knew I wanted to be a character designer, but I didn't think I was good enough. So, like I said, I just worked on a lot of other stuff until I knew I could specialize in it. Like, because I was working in my spare time to develop those skills. I didn't think I did till like a year ago. I didn't think I'd be an art director. So just take it one day at a time.
I think it's a journey, isn't it? It's a process.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very unlikely you're just gonna finish uni and walk straight into dream job, finished.
Exactly.
You know, I've reached the peak. It's unlikely.
Yeah.
Last question. I think this will be a good one. So Emily's asked, any tips for building confidence and networking?
Oof. Yeah, that's a bit of a hard one, but I would say when we're all back in like networking events, never be afraid. I know this is like easier said than done, but like everybody's there to network, and there are so many people in the industry who hate that part of like going and speaking to others. So you're saving people the time and effort if you do it yourself. And everybody appreciates that. So never feel like you're imposing, because at the end of the day, you have every right to be there. And that's what they're there for. They all signed up for a networking event. So they know what they should expect, people coming up to them and talking to them. But yeah, what you realize when you join the industry is that everybody's just like a normal human being. So yeah, just think of people as your peers, because that's where you want to be, and you know, that's good. For online, yeah, I mean, I've seen how game devs on Twitter are, and myself, like it's very like friendly and just like, you know, silly. So I like to think that it's easy to kind of join conversations. Just, yeah, don't be afraid to take up space. Like, you deserve to be there. So I think that's
excellent. That's all we've got time for. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Everyone's going to be saying thanks, and well, they already are. Everyone's going to be saying thanks in the chat. That was really cool. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you, everyone.
We